Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kevin Spire, owner of Inspired Connections, a genealogy research company helping you connect to ancestors. Today, I am partnering with the Iowa Genealogical Society for this presentation of Beginning Genealogy, or as I like to call it, Genealogy Basics. This is session 1 of a 4-part series to help you get started with climbing your family tree. So, let's get started. During the session, I will talk with you about some of the key foundational reasons that you might want to consider when doing your family research. We're going to start off with 5 basic rules of genealogy, just something kind of fun to kick things off here. And then we're going to take a look at where do I start? Where do I find the information? And what do I do with it once that I find it? So let's take a look at those 5 basic rules of genealogy. Number 1, everyone was a beginner once, and even experienced researchers are still learning new things. This is here just to remind people, don't be shy. Jump in, get started. You just got to jump in the water and get yourself wet. You might feel a little bit lost, but don't worry, it's okay, because I tell you what, there are other genealogists out there and they're willing to help you, and they will. All you got to do is ask. And even those of us that are more experienced genealogists, we're still learning new things. Technology changes all the time. Heck, we've only had DNA so long. I'm still learning about that. And new record sets become available. We just had the 1950 census not that long ago. So we're all learning. Reach out to a friend. You might make a new friend. Number 2, there are no such things as family secrets, just things we don't talk about. You might encounter some of these things. Some of us do. This is especially become more and more true since DNA testing has become more involved in the genealogy world. This could range from anything like a family member that was unexpectedly expecting, maybe a terrible illness, or an awful disagreement that created a division in the family. These things really affected people, and sometimes that still affects people down to the current day. So be considerate of the sensitivity of others if you stumble into this information. You might choose to keep some things private or to yourself, but if you are going to share, then I would at least prepare them and give them a little heads up that you found something unexpected that you want them to know about. Number 3, family lore can become tangled, but it often contains nuggets of truth. So many people have stories in their family about Native American connections, or they're related to royalty, or they have that ancestor that was on the Titanic. I don't know, it might be true, or there might be some little nugget of it that can help you with your research. And I'm going to give you an example here with my own family. I always heard in my family that my great-great-grandparents had a butcher shop in Germany. And I was researching that part of the family, and man, I was just really stuck. And then I remembered this little nugget of truth about the butcher shop. And I thought, I wonder if there were some business records in Germany. And lo and behold, there it was. I opened up some records and I found all kinds of things about the family as it was related to that butcher shop that they had. And it even took me back another couple generations in the family. So you never know what you might find. Hold on to those nuggets. Number 4, you need to be flexible in the spelling of names and ages of family members. A lot of these documents we look at, they're written by other people, and they just wrote down the name, how they heard it, and they assumed it was spelled that way. They didn't get any points for spelling corrections, and unfortunately, a lot of them didn't get any points for legible writing either, but that's another problem. Anyways, if you're a person that's really stuck on accurate spelling of your name, you need to loosen up a little bit. And I would recommend having a little list over to the side of maybe some alternate spellings to consider when you're looking at or searching for records. The same is true with ages. Census records have ages of individuals or sometimes birth years. Sometimes those ages are given really quickly to the census taker. They might have written them down wrong, or maybe the person giving them was having a bad math day. I mean, I have bad math days myself. But just know that you need to be a little bit flexible in many of these details. Number 5, everything is not on the internet, and not everything on the internet is true. Oh, who knew? There's a lot on the internet, don't get me wrong, and those collections are growing all the time. But there are still many, many little churches and county courthouses that they just don't have the money, the time, the funds, the people to digitize those records and get them online. What I'm saying is that if you're really determined to have that record or find that information, you might have to get off your chair, get away from your computer, and go take a little trip, or call a friend who can do the trip for you and go look for that record that you're hoping to find. Also, not everything true on the internet. Yeah, it's true even in genealogy. And if you find something that looks a little sketchy, remember, you want to check the sources and validate the information you're finding before you adopt it as part of your own. All right, let's take a look now on where do I start? Where do I start? How do I even start this thing? Maybe you haven't done anything yet and you're really wondering, what do I do? Well, I tell people to start with what they know best. And the thing that you know best generally is yourself. So you can document yourself, get your full name written down, your birth date, your birthplace. Ta-da, you're done. All right, good job. Now, let's expand out a little further to your spouse or your life partner, if you have one, and document the same thing for them. Full name, birth date, birth location, and if you're married, then marriage date and marriage location. From there, I'd suggest probably looking at your descendants and documenting your children, if you have any. Gather that same information for them. And then if you have grandchildren, I'd grab that information and document it. Now, you've got a pretty good foundation in those roots of that tree. Now let's go the other direction, up into the branches, and look towards your ancestors. And from you, I would go next to your parents. And let's document your parents. Get all the same information for each one of them. Name, birth information, marriage information, and if they've passed on, then collect their death date and death location information. From there, expand out to your siblings, and then I'd move on to grandparents and aunts and uncles, and so on and so forth. So I think you can kind of see a pattern, and that is to be very methodical in your approach with this. What you really want to avoid is what I call branch jumping in the tree. And what do I mean by branch jumping? Well, let's say you've always heard the story that you're related to George Washington. Okay? And it's very tempting to jump up the tree all the way to George Washington and research from there. Well, I tell you what, slow down. Let's make sure everything below George Washington is correct and find out how you're connected to that person, if in fact you really are. What I see happen so often is that people are excited to get started. They want to start with that famous ancestor, and later they find out that they have an error earlier on in their family tree. And what they've been doing is they've been climbing someone else's family tree. They've spent a lot of time doing it. So avoid climbing someone else's family tree, and this will help you stay focused on your own. Next, oral histories. This is some pretty valuable stuff. If you still have elder family members that are around and have good recollections, go and talk to them. Talk to them about their experiences, their recollections, their impressions. If they're comfortable with an audio-visual recording, definitely make one. You'll be glad that you did. And of course, be respectful of those sensitive topics in case you stumble into them. This is the truly valuable, most valuable information because you won't find this type of stuff in a census record or in a land document. This will tell you more about their experiences and the people and the personalities that they knew in regards to your ancestors. So, very important step. From there, we're going to stretch out a little bit further and talk about local resources. So, some local resources to consider, and there are many, but the ones that I'm going to point out are local libraries, county courthouses, church records, cemeteries, genealogical and historical societies. And I'm going to zoom in on just a couple of these. First, I want to talk about public libraries because I think these are often really overlooked, unfortunately, and they have so much great information in them. This is where the local information is housed. A lot of these libraries have copies of old newspapers or microfilms of them that they might have collected from their own town or neighboring little towns that have a lot of valuable information in them. Sometimes they even have publications that were put together by local groups like minutes and other little newsletters that might be valuable in your research. They're not really called genealogy sections in these libraries. They might be called a local history section. And if you're researching a little town and they no longer have a public library, those collections might have floated someplace else, and they often go to a county seat. So if that's the situation that you're looking at, look to a county seat that might have acquired information from your little town library. Also, keep in mind about interlibrary loan. This is a wonderful borrowing system across or between public libraries, and many, not all, but many libraries participate in it. If some library has an item that you'd like to look at, go to your local library, ask if they participate in this interlibrary loan system, and they may be able to reach out to that other library and borrow the item and have it delivered to your local library for you to view. Something to think about. Another one to consider are genealogical societies. So many of these have some incredible collections with rare and out of print items that are no longer available. If they don't have a brick and mortar building, then they might house a collection in a public library or a historical society building. You just have to do some checking. But one of the most valuable things in these genealogical societies are their members. These people have been doing the same type of researching that you're embarking on. And more times than not, they've probably stumbled into the same problems that you're encountering. So talk to them. Ask them what recommendations they might have. What can they help you with? These people love to collaborate and would love to help you out to be successful with your search. Of course, since I'm in Iowa, I have to talk a little bit about our own Iowa Genealogical Society. If you go out to their webpage at www.iowagenealogy.org, the homepage will appear something like this. It changes frequently, but this is what it looks like when I captured that screenshot. And if you go visit them in Des Moines, Iowa on East Grand Avenue, this is what the front of their building looks like. They have a number of items in their collection. They have tens of thousands of books and publications and microfilms available. They have records and books for across the United States, not just for the state of Iowa. They also have free access to Ancestry.com for the library edition, and they're also an affiliate of the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. So if you've ever used FamilySearch.org and you've been locked out of a collection that says you need to be at an affiliate library to view this record, because that's the licensing agreement that they have, the Iowa Genealogical Society is just one of those libraries where you can view your record. They also have educational classes each month, 2 genealogical conferences a year, and special interest groups, and of course those volunteers that are there to help you. Let's stretch out even a little bit further and talk about the state historical societies. Now, Iowa has one, and many states do. And along with that, they have record collections of their state documents. Now, at the State Historical Society of Iowa, you're going to find a lot of county records, newspapers, books, periodicals, not only mostly for Iowa, but also for a number of other states in their collection. There's also these special collections of manuscripts like personal papers and diaries, photographs, audiovisual materials. They have a great map collection there, government records, as well as access to the library edition of Ancestry.com. In the state of Iowa, we have 2 locations. Their main location is Des Moines, but they also have a location in Iowa City. Their hours are a little bit challenging, and because it is a state-run organization, sometimes they change. So I would always recommend checking their website or giving them a call to confirm when they're open, and you can go and use their research facility, because I'd hate for someone to make a trip and then find out that they're closed. Now, there are a number of libraries across the United States that specialize in genealogy information. The closest one to the state of Iowa, in my home, is the Mid-Continent Public Library in Independence, Missouri. They have some great things down there. And it's fun to go to Kansas City, which is right next door, and have some great barbecue when you're down there. Also, Allen County Library, Fort Wayne, Indiana, is probably the number 2 largest genealogical library in the United States. They have incredible stuff there. Number 1 largest library in the U.S. and probably close to the world is the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. This library is under the umbrella of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they have been collecting family history information for centuries now. Their collection is massive, and their website, FamilySearch.org, that I talked about earlier, is a great window into a lot of those records. Also, our own Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. has a number of items focused on genealogy research. So when you go to these libraries, what do you do? How do I even get started? Well, number 1 thing to do is to talk to the librarian or the volunteers and ask for a tour to get oriented. Explain your interest to them. You know, that's what these people are there for. They are there to help the public access the information on the shelf that they have. And a lot of times they have the information or the expertise, maybe even to direct you straight to whatever it is that you're looking for. Talk to them about policies with making copies. If you can use your cell phone, or if there's a cost for paper copies, and also understand their policies for laptops and Wi-Fi access. Next, how about the internet? We've all been out there, right? It's convenient. It's easy. You can research at 2 a.m. if you want to. There's lots and lots of websites, so many that are free and a number that have a subscription that you have to pay for. There are websites like Ancestry and FamilySearch.org and MyHeritage and many more that are out there. And if you just start doing some Google searches, you will stumble into more and more websites regarding family history information. Something I like to point out are the instructional videos that you can find on YouTube and also on the Family Search website. These videos are free and they're great. Some of them are only, 5-10 minutes long, and others can even be an hour or 2 hour lectures. But they're all just excellent information and a great place to find out more about how to and where to find information when doing your research. And finally, another place is to maybe collaborate with a friend or hire a professional. So there'll come a time when you get stuck, and we call it a brick wall, and you need some help. Sometimes you just need another friend, another set of eyes, a friend to look at it and maybe help you get unstuck. And that's where it's great to have a buddy to work with, or maybe another family member to work with on this type of thing. Sometimes that doesn't even get you unstuck, and you might consider hiring a professional. There are many of them out there that do this type of work. It just takes a little bit of looking and seeking out for these people to help you get unstuck and move forward with your research of what you're wanting to do. So, thank you so much today for joining me and reviewing these steps of genealogy basics. Be sure to check out my other sessions where we will take a deeper dive into researching with foundational records, looking out for common mistakes and pitfalls, establishing good work habits, and organizing your research on the computer or paper. Good luck climbing your family tree.